And I'm going to pass it over to Quinten to take us through recruiting and how to recruit the right team. So Quinten, I'll pass it over to you. You can be the sharing of screens authority right now,
Yeah.
and we'll go from there.
Thank you. And thanks, Erin, for the 10 minutes because my coffee was empty and now it's full. So that's good. So, okay, can you guys see a PowerPoint in front of you? Yeah, okay, awesome. Well, good to see everybody this morning. For anybody who doesn't know me, I am Quinten, and I'm one of the GMs over in Ottawa. And so we're gonna look at recruiting the right team. And for everybody who is at TSB, you and I would have all gone through recruiting, like how to recruit. So let's not get it wrong. We're not doing how to recruit. We're doing like who to recruit and what kind of roles should you have on your team to be able to have the right team based on what you're working on. So I think like there's lots of changes and stuff going on in the world, of course, and there's lots of questions of like, what should I do? Is my goal even going to be possible? And I think hopefully what I want to show you guys with this session is anything is possible with some adaptation and the right resources as well. So we'll go through that. So our purpose is entrepreneurs have a better understanding of the team they need to build based on business model and anticipated start date. So we'll go through how to adapt based on the anticipated start date. Our outcomes, so we have entrepreneurs know how many people to hire, know how many weeks it will take them to hit their goal, and then entrepreneurs know if there are any other roles they may need to hire for that may or may not have existed in the past. So it's a little bit on the being adaptable and kind of figuring that out. So we'll go through that together. So our agenda, we've got about an hour, and then just so everybody knows, it's lunch after that, bit of a break. So about an hour, and we'll go through some math, some production hours math. We'll go through some marketing hours math, applying it to your goal and problem solving any gaps to make sure that whatever you need to get done in your business, you can get done in whatever time span is kind of the idea. And then we'll talk a bit about adding a second crew, because for some of you, it might be a good option to consider that you may have considered or not before. So that's our agenda. Okay, so I guess to give a bit of context, because we're going to go through, yeah, like I said, a decent amount of math and a bit of an Excel spreadsheet and all that sort of stuff. But just the whole idea of what we're going through is really like how many hours does it take in totality to book and produce? That's the kind of the key, to book and produce the work required to hit your goal. So it's like what hours, what amount of just like time, pure time, will go into that. And then the reason that that's important is because it might be a shortened time. Like it might be less than you were initially planning. It's already two weeks less than we were initially planning. But kind of going through the different numbers and even like worst case scenarios, okay, what would it look like to hit your goal? So it's a bit of like a puzzle or like a math problem. So hopefully by the end, you guys will feel like you have some tools to be able to adapt and figure that out along the way. So how many hours does it take in totality to book and produce the work required? Okay, cool. So then the first thing we'll go through is just a bit on production capacity. And this is probably basic for a lot of you, but some people are new to the team as well. And some people maybe aren't math minded, so I've never thought about it in this way. But so basic production capacity, one day, so 8 hours, so call it an 8-hour day with 3 crew members. So 8 times 3 times our hourly charge rate is the amount of production capacity you can do in one day with 3 crew members. So it's $13.50. So 8 times 3 times 55. If you guys all want to get out your calculators or probably your phones, there's some calculations you guys can follow along with if you want, if that helps you kind of solidify. So that's one day. So 1350 is kind of max production capacity with a crew for 3. 1 week, we'll go 35 hours. So we have a bit of a safe production capacity week. So 35 hours each person, so including yourself, 3 crew members, and then 55-hour hourly charge rate, $55 hourly charge rate. It's about $57.75 is like a safe production capacity. So 5 days, 7 hours, 3 crew members you can produce 57.75 in the week. It's a little bit on the production capacity math. With marketing hours, so wanted to talk about this, and it's not really a way that we've talked to, it's probably not, yeah, it's probably a bit new for most people. We don't usually talk about it like this, but the marketing hours math, pretty much 1 hour equals one estimate. And that's, I'm sure any seniors on here have used that as building your plan whenever you're going through your GSNR, kind of plan on a lead an hour. Oftentimes you can get way more than that, but it's pretty safe to plan on about 1 lead an hour. So for the sake of what we're going through today, which is really like that totality of hours input into your business, we're not going to go through all the specific tactics and everything. That'll be this afternoon, where we can dive deep a little bit into the different tactics for marketing. So regardless of the tactic, whether it's cold calling or Facebook or referrals, we'll assume it takes on average 1 hour to get 1 lead and complete the estimate as well. Cool. So then to find the number of estimates you need, which will give you exactly the hours of input that you need, kind of 2 steps. A lot of you guys have probably done these before, but if you haven't, I'll take you through. So your sales goal minus 70% of your PC base. So we're doing a lot of work on PC base. You'll probably book more than 70% of that base, but that's a bit of a safer number, more conservative estimate. Use 70%. Unless you're already past that, you can change that as well. And that gives you your total external sales. So that should be pretty straightforward. From there, you divide your external sales by the average job size and then the success ratio. And that gives you the number of estimates required. So average job size that you can use is probably $200. And then a success ratio for a rookie is probably 40% would be a safe one to use. And that gives you your number of estimates. So don't worry, because I've got something that will calculate that all out for you. And it can be something that you come back to and adjust as these numbers change. So the average job size and success ratio, which are obviously on the reg, if anybody doesn't know that. So what we'll go through, so I want to use a tool, and it's something we'll go through today, and we'll have a few minutes to kind of go through it together and play around with it. But it's also something that I wanted you guys to have for the future because of that kind of like uncertainty piece of what if things change in coming weeks, what if start dates move back or forward, or all those different considerations, so that you always have something to be able to go back to and be like, okay, well, in this current scenario, what do I need to do and how I need to lay out my business to get all those hours, those total hours done, which is really what we're working through. So everybody can check their College Pro email. I think I emailed it out to your personal emails as well, just in case. And that was last night. So everybody should have an email from me from last night. Open the business hours in 2020 spreadsheet that was sent to you. And you can copy the sheet. So I'll give everybody a few minutes to do that. Once you guys have that, maybe just put it in the chat so that I know, just based on timing. So copy the sheet, open your GSNR file, add a tab, and paste the business hours. And we're going to fill it out together. So I'll give everybody a minute. And I'm going to pull it up here on my screen so that we can go through it together, but I'll leave these instructions just for another minute. If anybody can't find that email, maybe you just message your coach. Does anybody have it open yet as a gauge? You can come off mute. Let's see. Done. Nice. Okay, everybody's got decent internet connections this morning. That's good. Okay, cool. So let's fill it out then. So I'll pull it up here. So this is hopefully something you guys can come back to and use just as a way to like, yeah, think about it in terms of total production hours, and it's a bit of a puzzle from there. So what I have here, so the only thing you guys should change is your sales goal and your PC base. So you guys should all have those numbers. Does everybody know their goal? I would hope so. Put your goal in there and then put your PC base in, and everything else will formulate. Hence the big yellow arrows there. So I'll put in 55,000, so Rookie Pres Club, just to go through our example. And then I'll put in PC base of 25,000. So you guys can see the production hours formulates just the total sales goal divided by 55. So divided by our hourly charge rate. And that gives you the total number of hours that need to be produced in your business. So whether that's yourself producing them or your employees producing them, it's just the total number of hours. And then the external goal, so it's just it's your sales goal minus 70% of your PC base. That's the formula there, you guys can see. And then from that, we can get our estimates goal. So I've used that $200 average job size and 40% SR. I would leave that unless you're a senior and you know specifically that you should change that. So I know certain people have larger average job sizes or higher success ratios as a senior, but otherwise I would just stick with the more conservative number. And worst case is you hit your goal sooner than you thought, sort of thing. And so that's the estimates goal. So that's a total number of quotes you'd need to do in the year based on those stats. And then marketing hours just equals, the formula is just equals the estimates goal. And that's because we said 1 hour equals one estimate on average, regardless of the source. That's kind of like the input that has to go into it. So the way that we're kind of thinking about it is the total business hours. So it's just the production hours plus the marketing hours. So there's 1,469 hours that would need to go into this particular Pres Club business. And so that would be like if one person did that all themselves, it would be like 1,469 hours sort of thing. But you're obviously not going to do it without any help. And this year, probably more than other years, you'll probably want to really make sure you have the right resources set in place. So that's why we're talking about recruiting the right team. So from here, we kind of just have to figure out how to get those hours completed. So you can kind of choose your role in those hours. So it might be production, might be marketing, might be a bit of both. And then from there, you can kind of hire out the rest. And so a consideration up here at the top. So what we're thinking is it makes sense to plan on getting 35 productive hours per person per week. Obviously, a full-time employee is more like 40 hours. And obviously yourself, your business owner, you're probably going to put a lot, or should put a lot more than 35 hours into your business in a week, but it really like it's a safe bet to use the number 35 per person per week for a full-time employee. And you'll see as we go through, there'll be weeks where you probably want to ramp it up, and you probably want to have some more hours happening in your business. And there's weeks that will probably be a little bit less. So calculations for the first couple of weeks might be a little bit different because it takes time to get up to speed. So you might not be able to do 35 hours of production because you might not be hitting budgets yet. So some considerations, but on average, you could plan on getting 35 hours per person per week. Is everybody with me so far? Any questions or anything before we go into some math? Okay. Oh, maybe a question there. Do the franchisees and staff, do you think we'll be able to be working 6 days a week? Yes. I think we normally do. And I think it's a great option to have an extra day as an option. This plan, I've built it so it's like really safe. So it gives you extra room. So you can do a lot more than 35 hours yourself. Your employees can do more than 35 hours, of course, like if you want to add work on a Saturday or things like that. This plan gives you a lot of space. So I know people are kind of concerned about, could I possibly have enough space to hit my goal? So I wanted to show something that's not making you like super tight and down to the wire. Let me see what else. Conservative, got it. Yes, exactly. Okay, yeah, that's the word, Tony. That's more concise than my 3 sentences that I just used to describe the word conservative. Okay, cool. So then I have this grid down here, and this probably looks familiar to anybody who uses the SGSS Marketing and Production tab in your GSNR file. Same coloring. I did copy paste it, and then I kind of adjusted for the adjustments of the year. So I have you have different columns for different start dates. So May 11th start, that would be like a best case scenario sort of start, and then the number of weeks that you've got based on that. A June 1st start in June. June is a good month too. So kind of that scenario, what that would look like. A June 15th start. So I'll probably have you guys go through, run some numbers if we can't start for 2 full months from now, and see what that would look like, just in case. June 29th, so end of June, and then worst case scenario, which would be like, I don't even know that would be possible, but a July 13th start. What could that look like? And I think just going through the numbers on that kind of tests your entrepreneurial mindset. Like, Tony, you can type in the chat. I should have it. How can we? What is it? Oh, not that. Yeah, like how can we do it? How can it be done? Could it be done? And the answer probably is it could be done, just in a little bit of a different way, potentially. What would it take? Exactly, yes. What would it take? I'll write that down and put it on my wall like Tony suggested now. What would it take to get your full rookie press club business done if we don't start until the 13th of July? What would that look like? Hopefully you guys can see that it would be possible. Maybe not ideal, but I don't know, who's to say? We've never tried it before, so maybe it would be the best possible way of production. I have no idea. So we're gonna kind of go through those different scenarios. So how to kind of plan this out. And if we have, if we have questions, you guys can come off mute. But we'll just go through how to plan this out. So what we're looking at is our total business hours, how to get that done. So if you have, kind of typical structure would be yourself and 2 employees, right? So that's probably what a lot of you guys have been planning on doing. So if you had yourself and 2 employees, that's 3 full-time people. So you can get your calculators out or your phones. So 3 times 35 hours. So 3 people doing 35 hours, 105 productive hours in a week. And those can go towards marketing, they can go towards production. It's getting that, like chipping away at that output. 1469 total hours. So how many weeks at that kind of capacity, that basic structure, would it take? So it would be 1469 divided by that 105 weekly productive hours of 3 people. Does that make sense? Are we good so far? I can see Aaron nodding. At least Aaron's keeping up. Okay, 1469 divided by that 105. So 13.9, so it took 14 weeks. So if we start on May 11th, you'd be done around that August 16th sort of thing, with just like the super basic structure, only hiring 2 employees, only working a casual 35 hours a week. It should give you some space. A good consideration on that would be add yourself a week as well to account for the fact that you might be slow to get up to speed. So you might be done August 23rd, sort of thing, at a casual 35-hour pace per week, and that goes towards a blend of your production and your marketing hours. Okay, I'm gonna look at the chat really quick. 105. What does 105 represent again? Yes, great question. So 3 people producing 35 hours a week. Thank you, Sam. So it's the productive hours of the squad, Eric, as well. Well said. So 105. So I was just going based on like yourself doing 35 hours, crew member A doing 35 hours, and crew member B doing 35 hours. So 3 times 35 is 105. And that's your productive hours in the week. So that's an example. So this what we're going through is not going to give everybody like an exact plan. Like I can't personally tell everybody an exact plan. The idea is this is a tool for you guys to be able to figure out your plan and like figure out some what ifs. So what if we only have this number of weeks? What would my team have to look like so I can recruit the right people, like the right number of people to get these numbers of hours completed? That makes sense? Okay, cool. Let's take a couple minutes. So you can jump off mute or put in the chat if you have questions as we go through, but take a couple minutes and take a crack at the June 15th. So use your goal, use your PC base, and figure out based on the total number of hours your business is likely going to take, how would you accomplish that if we don't start for 2 months right now? So you can take a minute, and all you need to do is fill out. So you can do that kind of like hours, average hours per week, and just fill this out, this column out based on this start date, and then the number of weeks that you have based on when you're ending. Some people are going to go into the fall, so there's some extra weeks there, and some people aren't. Okay. Chat is blowing up. Why do number of weeks going to September, October? Just because some people will use those. It's going to be a good option as well for anybody who hasn't heard me rave about fall work. I think it's great and everybody should do fall work, but that said, you obviously don't have to, and it depending on your preference, you really don't have to go into the fall to hit your goal, but it's definitely a good option. Okay, what else do we have? 15 weeks with the formula. Okay, so for Ellen, for other people who maybe are kind of going through and figuring this out, so a good way to do it is if you had, let's say you have this total business hours of 1469. So 1469, and let's do a June 15th start without going into the fall. So without going into the fall, starting in June 15th, you've got 11 weeks. So June 15th to August 30th. So if we do that 1469 divided by 11 weeks, so on average, you need to do 133 productive hours. So if you divide that by 35, which is like one full-time productive person, it gives you 3.8. So that's like 3.8 people, 3.8 full-time people, if that makes sense, including yourself. So you could fill out these average hours of 133 on average as a start, like as a base and baseline. And then what you could go through and realistically do, and of course it's going to change for different people and all that sort of stuff. You could realistically go and ramp up. So start maybe with 100 for the first couple weeks. You might be at like 160 by week 4 when you're really operating at max capacity. Have a few solid weeks of 160 hours happening in your business, where you're out and you're doing a bunch of quotes and you're putting in those marketing hours, that sort of stuff. And then it might ramp back down towards the end of the business, which is kind of the typical, everybody knows it's kind of the typical flow of the business anyways. So you can get the average number of hours per week on average, and then realistically, it's not going to happen exactly the same number of hours every single week. So you could go in and adjust. Okay, I'll check the chat out again. Yeah, Dylan, it wouldn't take into account the hours you've already put in. So it's not taking into account any PCs you book between, or it's not taking into account anything you book between now and June 15th. It's assuming that you're not booking any external customers or anything beyond 70% of your PC base until June 15th, which for a lot of people, that's not going to be the case. You guys are going to keep booking work. Your Facebook pages are going to be ramped up and starting to generate some leads. So again, this like conservative, this is assuming like the world is shut down and you aren't doing anything in your business until June 15th. So super conservative. Okay, cool. So we've got some questions in here. So Hillary, you have yours says 2.29. So you need to have yourself one full-time employee and then probably a part-time employee would get you by for your goal. So Talia, so this means we would be working more hours or hiring more people. Yeah, so like if you went through and built your plan out specifically, you might want to take into account that you yourself are going to put 50 hours into your business. So you're going to put in like you're going to be producing your 35 hours with your crew, and then you're going to be marketing 15 hours on top of that, whether that's you're putting hours into doing quotes and working on your Facebook page, you're putting time into getting referrals, or you're putting time into cold calling. So 15 hours on top of that. So you could take care of some of those hours by adding in hours for yourself in a week, because it's probably, yeah, most of you probably should be putting in more than 35 hours in a week into your business, but you can build it as you see fit. Does that answer your question, Talia? I guess the other part to your question was, or hiring more people. So yes, this is kind of where you can figure out, so these are the total number of hours that need to happen in my business. Am I going to do them? I'm going to hire them out. And then am I going to hire out more of the production side, or am I going to hire out, maybe I need to add a marketer. Like maybe I need somebody that's full time going out and getting on average a lead an hour done for me in my business. That's kind of what we mean by recruiting the right team. Hillary, does that mean I don't need a third person? I would hire the third person, just to be safe. Again, conservative, hire the third person. All right, but more people could mean you hit a goal faster than what's projected. Exactly, yeah, so it's a problem, like a math problem or puzzle. If you hire more people, then those total number of hours that you need to have in your business, so for example, that 1,469 hours, if you have more people, more resources working on those hours and getting those done, you can do what you need to do in less amount of weeks. Exactly. Yes, exactly, George. Emma, just work 14 hours a day. That works for you. It doesn't work maybe for everybody else. Or more like 18. Let's see. If we're running a second crew, would you just divide the number by needed in half to look at what each crew is doing? Yeah, so somebody with a bigger business is probably going to have or somebody with multiple crews is going to have a way easier time getting those hours accomplished, because you have lots of people working on that. Tony, this isn't a question, it's a comment. I like this. It's a good tool for GSNR discussion. Yeah, so if anybody didn't paste this into a new tab in their GSNR, do that, because you can come back to it with your coach. And this is to give you a tool, like as you're going through and adapting, being able to look at it in different ways. As if time is shrinking, like if the number of weeks for your business to be really, really going is shrinking, you're constantly being able to be like, okay, well, I still need to get these 1,469 hours done. How am I going to structure that now? Maybe I need to add a marketer, or maybe I need to hire 3 people for production and have myself be like a full-time marketing machine, something like that. So it's good to use along the way and come back to with your coach for sure.
I think just real quick, Quinten, where you're at with it too is it's that exact type of question of like what would it take, right? Like if we had to do this all, if you had to run it into your goal is the goal doesn't change. If I had to do it in 8 weeks, what would that look like? It'd be craziness, but could you do it? And what would that look like? And I think that the comment, Tony, it's exactly what this is. This is why I think for those that have seen the confidence and the optimism in different videos and things that we've had over the last little while, it's the certainty in an uncertain environment. I don't have the crystal ball of exactly where the start date is, but if you can go to the point that you personally believe is going to be the worst case scenario start date and build that plan and know how many people you need and get ready for it, that's the biggest start. So for me, like if you're looking at, well, gosh, Aaron's thinking like middle of May. I think he's nuts. It's gonna be the middle of June. Okay, well then use middle of June. Go for it. Build it. And if you get to start on June 1st based on where you're thinking, and it's in between what you're thinking and what I'm thinking, gosh, you still have a ton of time to be able to do it. If it does start closer into May, you've got the people in the engine built to potentially even run a bigger business or get done quicker. What it is it's not often we would, I say often, like the normal, if you will, would be to get 70% of your production done in May and June. Well, now it's going to happen. It's going to shift. It's going to change. But this is an ability for somebody to look at, okay, well, how many actual, like what is the volume that I'm going to have to get through? So how many people am I going to need? And you make your own decision as to when you think you might start. And whether or not Tarek, I saw earlier, again, Quinten, you answered it, like into the fall. Gosh, like I wouldn't use the fall right now, right? Like pretend like it doesn't exist, hit your goal in the summer. And then if for some reason you don't go back to school, you do everything online and you're staying in your turf, you can run a $20,000 fall business. Sam, you've done it, right? I've done it. Quinten, you run some really big fall businesses in the past from Halifax, right? Like you're in Halifax, your turf's in Ottawa, and you're running fall businesses. So anyways, I jump in with to go, hey, look, the thought on it is that overall that it's not an if, it's a when, which is funny to say that, to use that in the context which you've used that so many times, but it's not a matter of if we're going to be able to start, it's when. And then based on when, what do you need to do? What's the model? What would that look like? And then pick one, right? I think that's the hard part. We're not getting into tactics. That's what we'll use this afternoon for, to problem solve some of these tactics. But this is entrepreneurship, but we're also bringing it in a 2020 world. It's entrepreneurship. There's no, this is not a job, right? A job would be show up and do it. And then entrepreneurship is pick what you think is most likely, build the plan, and then constantly make adjustments as things change. We're just in a bit of a different world right now. I think it's an awesome, awesome tool.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So that's our tool. You guys have that. You can come back to it. Next piece I wanted to go through is a bit of a problem solve. So I hope that gave you guys a little bit of peace of mind of like, okay, well, I can accomplish this without becoming too restrained. But there's always like, okay, well, what if I do become production restrained, or what if I do become marketing restrained? So I wanted to address that as well. So what if you do become production or marketing restrained? Let's go through a little bit of that. You guys will dive a little bit deeper into that later on as well. But let's go through that together. And I have this sheet. We're just going to type out some options. Everybody warm up your vocal cords and then come off mute. Tell me some options of what can you do if you do find like, oh, it's going to be based on this, it's going to be really tight. What are some options? Okay, we'll open up the chat too. Yeah, so fall business is a great option. I'm going to write that one. I'm typing this out because I'll share it with you guys, of course, afterwards, so you have the full list of options that we come up with, so you can come back to it. So fall work. What else? Hire another person. Yes. Hire another person. Okay. What else? Work longer hours. Yeah. So a lot of these plans will probably be based on working 7 hours a day for 5 days a week, which you got some more time than that. So maybe work extra days, work Sundays yourself. I think another option, to work more yourself. Set backup days. Yes, sounds like you Have learned a lot about setting up backup in your plan from Sam, probably, and your GSNR as well. Set backup days. Okay. Market heavy on weekends. Yeah. So hiring an assistant manager to allow you focus on booking work. Yeah. So hiring more people. Okay, have some slush room in your schedule for sure. I think on the topic of hiring more people, if you see like you have a ton of hours that need to happen in a week, like if you know that you're going to ramp up and you're going to have just like some crazy busy weeks for a few weeks in say June or July, an option that I kind of thought of and I did just I don't remember why exactly, but I did it in my second year, had a bit of a rotating schedule so that I had a lot of productive hours happening in my business, but I wasn't going into paying anybody overtime. So overtime is anything over 44 hours in a week. So you don't want to work your techs more than overtime because you have to pay it out and they'll get tired. But if you don't want to go into overtime, having a bit of like a rotating schedule could work. So you have like an extra amount of hours being able to happen. So if you had like people working full time for 4 days of the week, and then another set of people working full time for a different like whatever 5 days or like 4 days overlap of the week, if that makes sense. And you guys could, there's a million ways you could do that and set that up. But you could work through that with your coach. So having a bit of a rotating schedule to give you some more capacity. Add another crew. Yeah, so that's something that I definitely want to talk about in depth. So you guys read my mind. Add another crew. Thank you, Lauren. So 88 over the pay period. Yes, that's a good detail. Anything else? I think something else that I thought of is you could, so say it looks like we're not starting until June 15th. And you're like, well, I have 2 months. I'm not going to spend every waking hour just doing my marketing and that sort of stuff. You could spend some time in a small group with your crew, getting them up to speed so that once you actually can produce on real customer houses, your crew is able to hit the ground running. So if I had a crew and my crew was all sitting around waiting for work to start, I'd probably have them come over and wash my windows at my house, like, I don't know, like 10 different times or something, so that they're really getting good with ladders and they really know what they're doing with a squeegee. So like training your team a little bit extra maybe could get them up to speed and make it so that your first couple weeks are at a higher capacity of hours. So training team in advance, or having like, I don't know, like window cleaning boot camp in your backyard, something like that. Subcontract and pay the other business hourly. Sure, yeah, subcontracting. If the students are working online in the fall, they might be able to join in the fall. Yeah, fall work, hire a temp employee for your busy weeks. Yes, that would be good. So if you see like you'll probably have some weeks where you're a little bit over, hiring a person for just a couple weeks, or if you have a sibling that wants to jump in for a couple weeks, that would be pretty key. For sure. So I'll leave it at that for now for production restrained. What about marketing restrained? So what if you find like, okay, so I need to do 469 hours of marketing. How am I going to get that done? So is it going to be me? Is it going to be a combo of me and my techs? Should I hire a marketer? What marketing roles could you hire in your business? Like what support, what do you need to have in place to be able to get those, like make those hours happen? So any ideas on what to do if you could become marketing restrained, or what marketing roles you could hire for? Yeah, referrals. So putting more focus on referrals. Upselling. Mm-hmm. Get your team on board too. Yep, definitely. Team marketing. Social selling ads that are running in the background. Yes. So that's kind of like leveraging your time. If you spend some time in these couple months where we're all cooped up, getting your social selling going in the background, that's going to work for you while you guys are going out and producing those hours that we talked about. So social selling set up. Pre-scheduled post. Yeah, that's a good one. Pre-scheduled post. Cool. Fall work as well. Yep. Some other things to note is we used an average job size of 200. So if you guys use those conservative numbers, that could be something that you can build into your plan with your coach. How do I increase that average job size? Because that will drastically decrease the number of estimates that you need to do, the bigger the job size is. So you could do that by upselling when you are on a job, or making sure to like really put some time and attention into trying to get outside windows, eaves troughs, siding, even if we can't go inside, which Lauren went through all the stuff, the reasons or the ways that you can make sure to be safe inside, but adding eaves troughs and siding to jobs, or adding in carrying groceries as well. Dylan had that. Upselling, hire somebody to run your online platforms. Yeah, so if you could hire a digital marketing specialist. Hire a digital marketing specialist. And an option for that could be just for you, like your own personal digital marketing specialist, or it might make sense to collaborate with the people in your area. So for example, like the Guelph crew, I know you guys are pretty tight. If you guys collaborated and came up with a digital marketing specialist that worked on like Guelph as a whole, and kind of worked on that in the background for you, for everybody, to benefit everybody, for yourself or for the area. Let's see. Other options is, so you can hire the care center, like the customer care center, to book work for you. A lot of you guys are already opted into the PC calling option, and that'll continue to be an option and potentially have more options in that form. So care center. You could hire yourself a full-time Canada 411 caller. So you could hire, instead of like hiring a cold caller, I think of it as like the same thing, but just on the phone. So hire a Canada 411 caller. And I'm gonna capitalize that because I gotta do those things. Hire a full-time sign person. You could hire leverage painting leads for sure. Hire somebody to call through the painting leads, those sort of things. Hire a full-time flyer dropper, so you have somebody who runs house to house and drops flyers, and then you call the people afterwards and say, hey, we dropped a flyer at your place. But those flyer distributing hours are something you pay out, because those are going towards the production of your business. Figure out ways to generate more leads on the website. Awesome. So those are some options. We'll go even further into it in the afternoon, but I wanted to make sure just like to address that, like, okay, these are the amount of hours, these are the potential breakdowns, but what if I do become production restrained, or what if I do become marketing restrained? So that's a little bit on that. Next will be, should you add a crew? So that was one of the options that we came up with, and that's a bit of a financial decision for people. So if you are looking at the numbers and you're thinking like, I actually maybe should look at adding another crew, I wanted to give you guys the ammo of the math on that to make sure that you know if it makes sense financially for you to add another crew. So this should ring a bell. The gross margin, we're going to use gross margin to figure out how much extra sales you'd need to cover the cost of an additional crew, because there's obviously like a cost to adding another crew, because you need to buy all their equipment and get them all set up. So what level of sales do you need to do additionally to actually cover that and make it financially viable for you? We'll use gross margin, which is something Jess went through in TSC. TSB. Okay, so break even on something is the cost divided by your gross margin, which is a percentage. So we're going to go through that together. What contributes to your gross margin? It's all of the costs of the job. So like the cost of goods sold, it's your variable costs. You guys can put it in the chat if you want, but our variable costs, you guys should know. So there's so your labor is one, royalties are one, liability insurance, that's another variable cost. Answering service is a variable cost. And then we've got gas. So those are our main variable costs there. So we've got 5. And these are the numbers on them. So if you guys, again, want to pull out your calculators and go through it, we've got 25% for labor. Royalties, if you're a rookie, it's 9%, or 6% if you are a returner or a senior. The reason I use these lowest ones is because you're not going to become production restrained before your development target. So you're not going to need to add another crew if you're not even at your development target yet. So if you're not at this lowest royalty break, you're not going to need to add another crew. So use these numbers for consideration. Liability and answering service, add those together, it's 5%, and gas is 2.5. Although with prices where they are right now, it's probably a little less for some people. So gas 2.5%. If you add all this together, the total percentage for a rookie is probably 41.5, and for a returner, a senior is 38.5. So that's our percentage. The approximate cost of a second crew. So a roof rack, you know, buy a roof rack probably for the other crew's car. A set of ladders as well. So you probably need those extra 3 ladders, $600. And then a set of equipment. So say $500 for a set of equipment. And where I came up with that number is for a rookie kit, for everything that you would need, I believe it's $550 in your recoverables. If you were adding a crew, you wouldn't need to buy the full kit, so you can probably buy just bits and pieces of it. But say $500 for your equipment. So it's a total of $1,350 to add a second crew. Any questions so far? Seems to be quiet on the chat, so I'll take that as a good thing. So again, the calculation we're doing is the cost of adding the crew divided by your gross margin, so the total of your variable costs. So we can get the numbers. So $1,350 divided by that 41.5 to figure out how much additional sales. So for a rookie, it'd be $3,253. So if you're thinking about adding a second crew, you need to do $3,253 beyond your initial goal to make the same amount of money on it. So for it to not actually affect your profit because of that extra cost of buying all those extra things. And then same for a returner, same math, 3506 roughly, for it to be worth that extra cost. You guys good on that? Does that give you some of an idea on how to figure that out? Cool. Okay, cool. So should you add a crew? If you're going to do that, much extra in sales, and it gives you that extra capacity that you might, if you find out that you need extra capacity, it could be a really good option. If you have another crew going around, chances are you're going to book more work organically because the neighbors are going to see two times the crews and come up to you and ask for window cleaning 2 times as often as well. So a lot of that extra work could be booked organically as well. And more people going out getting more leads and all that sort of stuff. So and another consideration is if you do buy that additional roof rack, ladders, and equipment, it all does have asset value. So that can turn into extra profit if you sell it at the end. And then, so keep these things in mind, and you can obviously look at this with your coach as you're kind of going through and looking at the numbers, and it could be a good option to add a second crew. Cool. Okay. So that's all I had for for this morning. So I wanted to come back to our purpose. So I hope you guys have a better understanding of the team you need to build. If anybody came to the conclusion like, oh my gosh, I have to hire another person, then that's great. You have time. You have time to do it. Tons of people are applying. I get my phone buzzes every like 5 minutes with a new resume. So if you need to hire another team member, somebody's probably going to be super happy that they can join your team, because a lot of people are wanting to work right now. So if that's the case, then yeah, talk to your coach and add a crew member. The more the merrier. And then our outcomes. So wanted to make sure you guys know how many people you need to hire, how many weeks it will take to hit your goal, and if there's any new roles. So hopefully our problem solve, and I'll share that document with some options. Hopefully that gave you an idea of some other roles that maybe we've never had in the past. Normally we just hire like straight up cold color door knockers, but maybe it makes sense for people to hire some of the marketing out by hiring a digital marketing specialist. So that's what I had for you guys. I'll stop sharing my screen and we can leave it at that. Any questions just as we roll into lunch? Sounds like no.
Awesome. Thanks, Quentin. And I'm going to stop the recording.